My name is Leah Harrison, and I am 25 years old. I never thought coming home from my first successful business trip would end with finding my life packed in garbage bags. They sat in a neat row along the front fence like misshapen gravestones. The late afternoon light turned the plastic slick and shiny. My suitcase wheels clicked to a stop. The smile I'd carried from the airport slid off my face and hit the pavement. Before I go on, tell me where you're watching from and tap like and subscribe. This is a story about family control and the one decision that saved my sanity. Mom, Miriam stood by the gate in her gardening clogs, arms folded so tight the veins on her hands showed. My 3 siblings flanked her like a panel. Adrian, 33, all calm authority. Sienna, 31, immaculate as always, even on a Saturday. Theo, 29, hiding behind his hoodie, eyes darting away from mine. Leah, Mom said, voice clipped, "You're 25, it's time. Time." As if this were a birthday candle I'd forgotten to blow out. I set my suitcase upright and kept my own voice level. "What is this?" "Your things. We've packed everything. You're moving out today." Sienna eyed her watch like she had a dinner to beat traffic for. My brain skidded. This morning, I'd been in Seattle high on a perfect pitch, and a client who said the words, "Let's go big." I'd even grabbed gifts, small batch coffee for Adrian, a silk notebook for Sienna, a model airplane for Theo, because he loved tinkering. I'd picked a lavender candle for Mom. It now bulged from one of the bags like a joke. I looked at Adrian. He stared back with a doctor's steady gaze. "It's time to be independent," he said. "We all left earlier." "I pay rent," I said. "I buy groceries. I drive Mom to appointments. I work full-time. I just brought in a 6-figure contract." My voice shook on the last word, not from fear but from disbelief. Mom exhaled through her nose. "Excuses. You're too comfortable here." Comfortable. I thought about my comfort early mornings, late nights cleaning after everyone's visits, the constant comparisons. Our father died when I was 6. After that, love in our house turned into a scoreboard. Adrian the savior, Sienna the showpiece, Theo the fixer, me, the one who needed pushing. Why now, I asked. Why while I was gone? No one answered. Behind Mom's leg, a folded yellow flyer flashed. Open house this weekend. I'd seen one on the kitchen counter last month. Mom had laughed it off. Just junk mail, she'd said, tucking it under a cookbook. Theo swallowed. "Leah," his voice drifted. Sienna snapped, "Don't start." "What aren't you saying?" I asked. Eyes moving to Theo, he blurted it out like a kid stepping off a cliff. "The house is under contract." Silence. Even the wind paused. "There it is," I said softly. "You're selling." Mom lifted her chin. "My finances are not your concern." "They are if you packed my life into trash bags to make room for a sale," I answered. "Dad's will." "Don't," Adrian warned. "Left the property, to all 4 of us," I finished. I remembered the lawyer's office, the smell of old paper and lemon cleaner, the way Mom squeezed my hand like a vice. Sienna's lips pressed into a perfect line. "You've had years of subsidized living." "I've had years of paying rent to my mother," I shot back. "Where exactly did that go?" Mom's eyes sparked. "Watch your tone." Neighbors pretended not to stare. A dog leash went tight. Somewhere a mower droned. This was Evanston quiet, and manicured where drama belonged in novels, not on sidewalks. I lowered my volume. "Let's talk inside." "No," Mom said. "There's nothing to discuss." There it was, the old rule. Her word was the only word. I thought of all the times she'd said, "You'll thank me later." I thought of how later never came. I looked at the bags. They were knotted, haphazardly stretched near tearing. I pictured the inside of my room, bare walls, a rectangle of sun on carpet, where my bed used to be holes where my picture hooks had been ripped out, paint chipped and curling like scabs. "Okay," I said. Adrian blinked. "Okay? I'm not going to beg on the lawn." I pulled my car key from my pocket. "If this is the way we do family, I can't weather it from inside the blast zone." Sienna scoffed. "Dramatic." "Truthful," I corrected. I popped the hatchback and started loading. The bags were heavier than they looked. Books dug into my thigh through the plastic. A picture frame pressed glass against my skin. Theo stepped forward, hesitated, then lifted 2 bags and settled them carefully in the back. His face was pale. "Leah," he whispered, not meeting my eyes. "I'm sorry." "That makes one of you," I said, not unkindly. "You're being irresponsible," Adrian called. "You should have prepared. You knew this day would come." I didn't look up. I prepared for life. I didn't prepare for ambush. Mom's voice rose. After everything I've sacrificed, I turned. You sacrificed. I know. I thanked you. I paid you. I took care of you. I did what you asked, even when it made no sense. And you waited until I was thousands of miles away to take a broom to my existence. Something shifted in her expression. Anger, sure, but beneath it, something like fear. It flickered and was gone. When the car was full, I closed the hatch and wiped my hands on my jeans. The lavender candle peeked out dented but unbroken. I placed it on top of the last bag like a flag. For what it's worth, I said Seattle went well. My team crushed it. A promotion is on the table. I let the facts hang there weightless in the air between us. I thought you'd be proud. No one answered. Goodbye, I said, and I meant it. Not a scene, not a threat, a boundary. I drove off without checking the rear view because I already knew what I'd see: 4 figures small and stiff boxed in by a white fence and a line of black bags. 3 blocks away, my breath left my body in one long strangled sound. I pulled over and let the shaking come. Then I called the one person who had never used my love as leverage. Arya, my college roommate, answered on the second ring. I heard clinking dishes, the muffled hum of her apartment. Hey, you back? Can I come over? My voice cracked. Right now. Text me your ETA, she said. No questions, no lecture. I'll be waiting. On the drive, my phone lit with messages. From Mom, you're making a scene. From Adrian. Think about this rationally. From Sienna landlords, expect references. Hope you have some. From Theo, I'm sorry. I didn't want it like this. I didn't reply. A streetlight blinked green. A kid on a scooter zipped past a bakery where somebody laughed. The world kept moving. I gripped the wheel and caught my reflection in the glass of a bus stop. Puffy eyes, wind-tangled hair. A woman who looked like me but older by a decade. Arya met me at the curb in socks and an oversized sweater, hair in a bun, kindness plain on her face. Her boyfriend Miles appeared behind her, carrying 2 bags at once, as if we'd rehearsed this. We ferried the trash bags upstairs to their tiny second bedroom that doubled as a storage nook. The room filled fast: clothes, books, the model plane Theo never got, the lavender candle now perched on a stack of sweaters. My entire life condensed and tied at the top. Arya pressed a mug of tea into my hands. Eat first, she said softly. Cry after, or during. Both is fine. I laughed and it came out jagged. We sat on the floor between bags that rustled when we shifted. My phone buzzed again, a message from an unknown number. It began with, "We need to discuss the proceeds." I locked the screen. Arya noticed. "Do you want to read them?" "Not yet," I said. "If I open that door, it won't close." "Then don't," she said, simple as gravity. Miles nodded from the kitchen, already looking up air mattresses. No one told me to calm down. No one told me I was overreacting. No one asked for proof. That night, in a borrowed t-shirt, I lay on an air mattress between towers of black plastic and stared at the hairline crack that ran across Arya's ceiling like a river on a map. The hum of the fridge, a siren far away, footsteps above us, new sounds unfamiliar but safe. I had nothing figured out. No lease, no plan. A car full of chaos and a heart full of ash. But under the ache, something small and bright shifted awake. Not relief, not revenge, something like clarity. I would not beg my way back into a house that had erased me. I would not let shame make my choices for me. I would build from nothing if I had to. I'd done harder things already. I just hadn't noticed. And there, between trash bags and borrowed pillows, the decision formed, the one that would change everything. The line I drew. The first night, I didn't touch the messages. I ate Arya's pasta, took a long shower, and tried to sleep between the soft hiss of traffic and the tiny squeak of her ceiling fan. When morning came, I made coffee in a chipped mug and finally opened my phone. Mom, first, you created this drama. We had to make a firm decision. Then Adrian. We expect cooperation about the sale. Vacant possession is standard. After that, Sienna. We will be adjusting distributions to account for your extended stay. Hope you understand. Theo's text sat at the bottom like a bruised fruit. I'm sorry. I tried. There was a photo attached. It was a screenshot of a group thread between him, Adrian, and Sienna. My name was on top like a case file. Sienna had typed, Get her out before the open house or we lose leverage. Adrian replied, Mom can reduce her share. It's fair. A final line from an unknown number. Offer expires Friday. Need keys. The contact saved as Lorna, likely the agent. Any doubt I had about motives vanished. This wasn't about my growth. It was about a clean listing and a tidy check. I sat on the edge of the air mattress and breathed through the urge to fire back. Arya handed me a plate of toast. You don't have to reply angry, she said. You can reply smart. That word steadied me. Smart meant documenting. Smart meant timing. Smart meant asking for help. Miles poked his head from the hallway and said he could call his cousin, who worked as a paralegal. I nodded. 10 minutes later, I was on the phone with a woman named Cammie, who spoke fast and precise. I summarized what happened. She slowed me down. First, take photos of the bags as they are. Note what's missing. Second, Illinois law doesn't love self-help evictions even for family. You paid rent, keep proof. Third, if you're named in your father's will, any sale that affects your interest requires notice. Get a copy. Today, I felt something click into place. Not victory, not yet. A foothold. After the call, Arya and I opened the first 3 bags and made a quick inventory. Clothes, a jumble of cords. My framed degree cracked at the corner. The gifts from Seattle. What I didn't find made my stomach drop the shoebox with Dad's old pocket watch and the letter he'd written me for high school graduation. I kept both in the top drawer of my nightstand. The nightstand wasn't there. I closed my eyes and pictured my empty room, the indent in the carpet where it used to sit, Sienna's habit of tidying anything personal when she visited. Arya touched my shoulder. We'll get them back, she said. Not with a text, I answered. With a plan. I opened a blank email and wrote the subject line, Request for Documents and Access. I addressed it to Mom, CC'd my siblings, and attached the rent receipts and transfers I'd kept out of habit. In clear, calm sentences, I asked for 4 things: a copy of Dad's will, a copy of the purchase agreement, a written schedule for me to enter my former room within 48 hours to collect the rest of my property, and confirmation of the location of the pocket watch and letter. I added 1 line I had practiced aloud. I will not consent to any arrangement that reduces my share retroactively or penalizes me for paying rent you requested. I read it twice. No heat, no threats, just facts. Before I hit send, I forwarded the draft to Cammie. She replied in 4 minutes. Clean it, add this. Any further handling of my belongings without my presence or written permission will be considered unauthorized. I added the sentence. Then I pressed send. The relief was immediate. Not because I expected a fair reply, but because I had moved from pleading to positioning. Survival had shifted to strategy. My phone buzzed. Work email. My boss, Rhea, Monday, 9 a.m. Let's talk next steps after Seattle. Great job. The timing felt like a hand on my back. Arya grinned. You're stacking wins, she said. Small ones, I answered. But they count. We spent the late morning hunting studios online. Everything decent vanished within hours. The ones we could tour looked like movie sets for horror scenes. Still, I made a list and booked 2 viewings for the week. Because momentum matters when your life tries to knock you flat. After lunch, Theo called. I almost let it go to voicemail. I answered on the 3rd ring. His words fell over each other. I shouldn't have said yes to packing. I thought it was just clothes. Sienna took your nightstand. She said she'd keep anything sentimental safe. I didn't see where she put it. I'm sorry. I swallowed hard. Thank you for telling me. Can you be there when I come to collect the rest? He hesitated. Adrian will be mad. He can be mad, I said. We're not 12. Theo's breath shook. Okay, I'll be there. When I hung up, I wrote another short email requesting a time for access on Tuesday at 6 p.m. and naming Theo as my witness. I also added 1 more CC, a legal aid clinic Arya found that specializes in housing and family issues. The address line did more than summon help. It told my family I wasn't alone anymore. The replies started within minutes. Adrian, you're overcomplicating this. The will is with Mom's files. We'll handle distributions after close. Sienna. You're not entitled to special treatment. Don't threaten us with lawyers. Mom, stop embarrassing me. We'll give you 2 hours on Tuesday. Don't touch anything that isn't yours. I typed a one-sentence response. I'll be accompanied, and I'll film my retrieval to document the condition of my property. No one answered that. Arya raised an eyebrow when she read it. That's a spine, she said. About time. It wasn't just about the stuff, it was about the pattern. Years of saying yes to keep peace had grown a forest of bad expectations. Saying no felt like hacking through vines to see daylight. In the afternoon, I called my dad's old friend, Mr. Nguyen, who used to come by the house with cherry pies and stories. He answered on the second ring and listened without interruption. When I finished, he said quietly, "Your father told me once he added a clause. Miriam could manage the home until the youngest turned 25. Then decisions required all signatures. He wanted to protect you from being outvoted." The floor seemed to tilt. "Do you know where a copy is?" "He gave me a duplicate," Mr. Nguyen said. "I kept it because he asked me to. I'll scan and send it tonight." After I hung up, I pressed my palms to my eyes and laughed a startled sound that pulled Arya from the kitchen. I told her. She did a little dance in her socks. "Your dad saw you," she said. Even then. At dusk, Miles drove us to a big box store. We bought 2 locking totes, a cheap document scanner, and bright labels. Back at the apartment, I started a folder with names. Lease hunt, work, family, legal. I labeled every screenshot and receipt. I filed the emails. I tucked the silver pen I'd bought for Sienna into a tote with the watch's empty space marked in thick marker. If I couldn't have peace, I would have order. The message from Mr. Nguyen arrived at 9:14 p.m. The scan showed Dad's steady handwriting on a letter attached to the will. It was simple. When Leah is 25, any sale or encumbrance requires her consent. Family is fairness, or it isn't family. Beneath that, the attorney's stamp and a date. I forwarded the file to myself, to Cammie, and to a new address I made that night just for this mess. I also printed a copy and slid it into a rubber-sleeved binder. My hands trembled not with anger, but with relief so sharp it felt like grief. I thought of Dad's hand on my shoulder at my 6th birthday, his voice telling me to make strong choices. I whispered, "I'm trying to no one and everyone." Before bed, I opened a new note and wrote what I was willing to do. Help Mom find a smaller place. Yes. Sign away consent without transparency. No. Accept blame for their choice. No. Return the gifts. Maybe later, when it didn't feel like capitulation. I wrote what I needed. Time, keys, the watch, the letter. A seat at the table where decisions are made about my life. I slept better. Not good. Better. Morning light found the apartment early. Arya left for a shift. Miles made eggs and passed me a fork without asking questions. My phone buzzed again. A new email from a name I didn't recognize, Lorna. She wrote, "We understand there are family matters to resolve. Please be advised the buyers are flexible on move-in. We can adjust timelines." Translation: they'd heard the word consent. Leverage doesn't mean cruelty, it means balance. I replied with a polite acknowledgement and copied my family again. The silence that followed carried a different weight. It wasn't contempt, it was calculation. I could feel the game finally stop being one-sided. I checked the calendar. Monday's meeting at work might change my role. Tuesday's retrieval would change my posture. Both were steps toward a life where I answered to myself. I packed the binder, a phone tripod, and a gentle voice I planned to use even if they didn't deserve it. I wasn't going there to punish anyone. I was going to claim what was mine and leave the rest. And as I zipped the tote shut, a new text from Theo popped up, "Come at 6. I'll meet you at the curb. Sienna is furious, but I don't care. Also, I found something you should see." My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Noted. "See you then," I wrote. I set the phone down and felt that small bright thing inside me grow a little. In part 1, I had driven away with nothing but hurt. The front door and the red folder. Monday came like a reset. I ironed a clean shirt, tied my hair back, and walked into the office with my binder in my bag. Rhea waved me into a glass room and shut the door. Her eyes were bright. "Seattle landed. They asked for you by name. I want you leading the West Coast portfolio for a 3-month pilot. It comes with a bump and a small team." I heard the words, let them settle, and nodded once to keep my voice steady. Yes. We mapped tasks. We set checkpoints. She asked if I needed time off for family logistics. I said I was handling it. When the meeting ended, I sat at my desk and wrote the pilot plan in clean, numbered steps. It felt good to put order on something. At lunch, I bought a second phone charger, a spare battery, and a tiny tripod. If I was going back to the house, I would not rely on a shaky hand. Tuesday arrived gray and windless. Arya drove. We parked 2 houses down. Theo waited by the curb, hands deep in jacket pockets, bouncing on his heels. His smile was nervous and real. "Basement door is open," he whispered. "They're in the kitchen." I clipped the tripod to the fence and angled the lens toward the walkway. I told Theo I'd record. He nodded. "Good." We crossed the yard. The grass had that damp spring smell. I rang the bell, even though my key had worked my whole life. Mom opened the door jaw set. Lemon cleaner and something floral hit me. The entry table was bare except for a fake plant and a real stack of mail. Sienna stood by the counter in a cream sweater, arms folded. Adrian leaned against the fridge like a judge between cases. 2 hours, Mom said. "No drama." "No problem," I said. I lifted the binder so they could see the tabs. "I'll film. I'll take only what's mine. I'll list what's missing. We can discuss documents afterward." Sienna's eyes flicked to the tripod in the yard and back to me. "You can't record in here," she snapped. "I'm recording my retrieval," I answered. "If you prefer, we can do this at the police station. Your call." Adrian rolled his shoulders. "Let's get this done." I stepped into my old room. It smelled like dust and fresh paint. The walls were a too bright white, sun-pooled where my bed had been. The closet held 3 wire hangers and a dented box labeled Miss. I crouched, opened it, and spoke into my phone in a steady tone. Box 1, 2 sweaters, old laptop sleeve. No nightstand contents, no photo albums. Theo hovered in the doorway. "Garage," he mouthed. "Back shelf." We walked past the dining room. The table was set as if we were staging a magazine spread. Sienna's heel clicked on the wood. In the garage, the air was cool and smelled like concrete. My nightstand sat by a stack of paint cans drawer, gone a dark rectangle. Bandun, where a coaster had rested for years. Theo moved a bin and reached behind a shop vac. He pulled out a shoebox sealed with blue painter's tape and handed it to me fast like it was hot. "She hid it yesterday," he whispered. My throat tightened. I peeled the tape carefully. Inside, wrapped in a dish towel, was Dad's pocket watch. Heavy. Warm from my palm. Under it lay the graduation letter still folded in thirds. Beneath the letter was an unexpected thing, a red folder with a clear cover. Inside, printouts. I slid the top page out and read the header. Strategy for vacant possession, timeline, and risk. The date matched the week I'd gone to Seattle. A paragraph was underlined in Sienna's neat hand: tenant removal. Prior to open house reduces buyer questions and maximizes offer strength. The next page was an email chain. Lorna to Sienna. If Leah is still in residence, we must disclose. Could impact price. Sienna's reply. We'll handle. Her share will be adjusted to reflect freeloading. I took a breath through my nose, held it, let it out slow. I didn't look at Theo. I slid the folder into my tote with the watch and the letter. I filmed the box, the shelf, the spot where it had been. Back inside, Sienna blocked the hallway. That box is not all yours, she said. It contains correspondence about the sale. And my property, I said. I kept my voice light. We can make copies of your pages. I'll email you a scan. Adrian cut in. We are not litigating in the garage. Agreed, I said. We're inventorying. I moved past them. In the kitchen, a manila envelope sat by the fruit bowl, my name printed on the tab. I opened it. Inside was a family settlement agreement. It had a signature line with my name typed beneath, then a blank space for my date. The second paragraph read, Leah Harrison acknowledges no equitable interest in the residence and agrees to accept zero distribution from the sale as consideration for rent and support provided. A pen lay on top, at an angle like a pose. I met Sienna's gaze. You left out under duress and in exchange for nothing. Color rose on her cheeks. It's fair, she said. You cost us money. Adrian watched my face. Leah signed so we can move on. I pulled a paper from my binder and laid it next to their document. It was a printed copy of Mr. Nguyen's scan. The handwritten clause glowed against the legal text. When Leah is 25, any sale or encumbrance requires her consent. Family is fairness, or it isn't family. I didn't preach, I just let them read it. Theo's mouth fell open a little. Adrian's shoulders squared. Sienna made a small sound like a scoff that got stuck. Mom's hand drifted toward the page and then pulled back. "Where did you get that?" she whispered. "From Dad," I said. Through the person he trusted to hold it. Adrian reached for the paper. I slid it an inch away and then offered a printed copy. "You can keep that one," I said. "I brought extras." The room changed shape. The stiffness didn't melt, but it shifted. Sienna grabbed the settlement and flipped to the last page. "We were trying to prevent chaos," she said, voice tight. "Investors don't like complications." "Then disclose," I said. "Or restructure. Add an addendum that places my share in escrow until we agree. Or don't sell. Your choice. But no more tricks." Adrian leaned on the counter. "We didn't trick you." I lifted the red folder. "The plan was to remove me while I was out of state." "That's not a misunderstanding." Theo cleared his throat. "She should take her things," he said. His voice steadied. "We can discuss the rest with counsel present." For a second, pride for him cut through the static. Mom's chin trembled. "I don't want this to turn ugly," she said. "Then stop forcing it," I replied. "I'm willing to help you find a new place. I'll be decent, but I will not sign away my rights to make your paperwork easier." Sienna laughed once, humorless. "You think help matters now?" I met her eyes. "To me it does." I finished the sweep of my room, the hall closet, the hall shelf that still held a chipped mug I'd made in 7th grade. I filmed everything I touched and everything gone. I listed the items still missing 2 photo albums, a hard drive, a slim black notebook with a silver elastic band. Sienna's gaze flicked to her tote. I wrote the note on my phone without comment. On the way out, Theo tugged my sleeve and pressed a flash drive into my palm. He had tucked it under his watch band. From the printer, he whispered, "Scans of the listing packet. There's a page you should see." In the car, I slid the drive into my laptop and opened the files. The document was short, a rider that allowed early release of a portion of the buyer's deposit upon confirmation of vacancy signed by Mom and initialed by Sienna on a witness line. Of course, they had been in a rush. Cash dangled behind my back gives urgency a halo. I sent the rider to Cami with a one-line note. This explains the timeline. Then I emailed Lorna, copied everyone, and wrote, "I do not consent to a sale without a signed distribution plan or escrow arrangement reflecting my interest specified in the attached clause. I'm available to discuss options." The tone stayed even. The attachment did the heavy lifting. Lorna replied within an hour. "Understood. We will pause the current schedule until this is resolved." I read the sentence twice. Air filled my lungs like I had been underwater. Arya squeezed my knee while she drove. "You gave yourself time," she said. "That's oxygen." Back at the apartment, I scanned the letter and placed the watch in a small fabric pouch. I put both in the locking tote and slid it under the bed. Then I made tea and rewatched the retrieval video, noting timestamps, writing a tidy list. I wanted a clean record. I wanted my future self to see the moment I stopped arguing and started acting. At 9, my phone buzzed. "Adrian." "We should meet with a mediator, Sienna." "Return my folder." "Mom, can we talk alone, Theo, proud of you?" I answered only one. To Theo, I sent a heart and a thank you. Then I drafted a reply to the group with 3 points. I would return copies of any sale documents after scanning. I would meet with a neutral third party present. I would not discuss distributions by text. Simple, clear. The day's noise faded. The apartment hummed. I took the watch out one more time and clicked it open. The second hand moved like a heartbeat. Dad's letter was short 5 sentences about courage and kindness, and not confusing peace with surrender. I read it twice and tucked it away. In the morning, I'd send a formal notice to the title company. I'd ask for the escrow arrangement Cami suggested. I'd keep my job plate spinning, while I balanced this on the other hand. I could do both. I had to. I set my alarm and lay down tired and wired and strangely calm. The hardest part ahead wasn't paperwork. It was the next talk with Mom, the one where we named what had happened and what would never happen again. That conversation would decide whether we could build something new or leave the rubble where it lay. 2 coffees, 3 buckets, 1 line. I picked a quiet cafe with wide windows and steady light. I got there early, bought 2 coffees, and chose a table against the wall. I set my binder on the chair beside me and told myself I would not drift into old habits. No smoothing, no apologizing for asking for basic respect. Mom walked in 5 minutes late wearing a navy coat she saved for church. Her hair was neat, but the skin under her eyes looked thin. She scanned the room, saw me, and lifted her chin like she was holding herself together by will alone. "Leah," she said, sitting without a hug. "You look busy." "I am," I said. "Thank you for coming." She reached for the cup. I slid toward her and took a careful sip. We sat in the hum of low voices and clinking spoons. I kept my voice even. "I want this to be useful, so here's how I'd like to do it. 3 buckets. First, my belongings. Second, the sale. Third, our relationship. If we wander, we won't finish." She stared at me a beat, then nodded once. "Fine. Bucket 1, I said. 2 photo albums, a hard drive labeled 2015-2019, and a black notebook with a silver elastic are still missing. I have video of the rooms and the garage." Theo confirmed the nightstand was moved, and I found Dad's watch and letter in a taped box behind a shop vac. "I need the rest returned within 24 hours. No edits, no sorting, full return." Her mouth tightened. Sienna was trying to protect sentimental items from damage. She hid them. I said steady. Protection would have been a text, not tape. "Can you commit to returning the items by tomorrow?" She looked at her coffee. "I'll ask Sienna." "I need a yes from you," I said. A quiet beat passed. "Yes," she said, tomorrow. I wrote it in my notebook, not as a threat, but as a record. Bucket 2, the sale. I pulled a printed copy of the clause and placed it between us. "This requires my consent at 25. I am not withholding consent to be difficult. I'm withholding it until we have a fair plan." Lorna has paused the schedule. "We can solve this without lawyers if we choose." Mom's jaw worked a tiny movement like she was chewing a thought. "I didn't know about that clause. You were in the room," I said, gentler than the words. Grief was loud then. "I understand forgetting. Now we remember." She rubbed the edge of the paper with her thumb. "What do you want an escrow for my share at closing until we agree on distribution?" A written accounting of household expenses I contributed for 3 years. Copies of all sale documents, including the rider that promised early deposit upon vacancy. A neutral mediator for 1 meeting. No settlement that asks me to accept 0. She breathed out slowly. "Adrian says you're making this bigger than it has to be." "Adrian doesn't live with the consequences of decisions made about my life," I said. "And you saw what happened when you tried to skip steps. It got bigger anyway." She flinched. I let the silence sit. Finally, she said, "Lorna told me buyers might walk." "If they do, another will come," I said. "If they don't, we do this right. We stop using hurry as a reason to hurt." Her eyes lifted at that. For a second, I saw the mother who braided my hair for a school play and cried in the audience. It flashed and was gone. "I never wanted to hurt you," she said. "I wanted you to move forward. You don't build a life by pulling the floor out," I said. Bucket 3. Us. I folded my hands so I wouldn't point. "Here are my boundaries. No ambushes, no group decisions about me without me. No comparisons to my siblings at holidays. If we discuss money or property, we do it by email with a copy to the mediator until this is resolved. If we talk as mother and daughter, we keep it separate from the legal things. I won't block you. I also won't let you borrow the version of me that says yes to everything to keep the peace. That daughter is gone." She stared at the table. When she spoke, her voice was small. "After your father died, I woke every day with a list and a knot in my stomach. The only way I knew how to keep the lights on was control. If I let anything slip, it felt like we'd fall apart. Adrian understood structure. Sienna needs approval like air. Theo goes along to keep calm. You wanted choice. It scared me. I was a kid, I said softly. It wasn't my job to manage your fear. She nodded, eyes shining. I see that now. I waited, not to punish, but to leave room for the sentence I needed. She swallowed. I'm sorry I packed your things while you were gone. I'm sorry I didn't warn you. I'm sorry I made your life small to make mine feel safe. It was wrong. The air in my chest moved again. I hadn't realized how long I'd been bracing. Thank you, I said. That matters. We sat in the gentle noise of the cafe while two teens argued over muffins, and a barista laughed at something we couldn't hear. Mom pressed her napkin into a tiny square. Where does this leave us? At the start, I said. We don't pretend it didn't happen. We don't let it define everything either. You and I can meet for coffee like this twice a month. We keep it about us, not the others. We can do family therapy once the sale is settled. I will help you search for a place you can afford, but you will not move in with me. That's not an option. Her mouth opened-closed, then she nodded. I can live with that. We picked dates for mediation and a follow-up with Lorna. We agreed to exchange documents through a shared folder Cami set up. We wrote down tomorrow next to the missing items and both signed the note like a tiny contract. Not because it was legally binding, but because I wanted us to practice clear agreements. At the door, she touched my sleeve. You seem different, she said. I said. I like her. A strange, warm grief touched her face. She left without another word, coat tight around her. A small woman under a big sky. I took a photo of our handwritten note and sent it to the group with the subject line, Agreements from Today. Adrian replied with a curt received. Sienna sent nothing. Theo texted a thumbs up and a proud of you again. I walked back to work with my binder under my arm and led a kickoff call for the Seattle pilot. The clients asked sharp questions. I laid out a clear path, next steps, and timelines with buffers. Ria pinged me after, "You're calm under pressure. Keep that." I smiled at my screen. Calm wasn't natural, it was practice. At 6, my phone buzzed. A rideshare ping from Theo's address, and then a message, front steps. Envelope under the mat. I jogged down and lifted the doormat at Arya's building. A thick manila waited. Inside were the 2 photo albums, the hard drive, and my black notebook with the silver elastic. A post-it from Theo sat on top. She wouldn't hand them to me. I distracted. Sorry for the drama. I wrote back. You did the right thing, and sent him a photo of the lavender candle on my shelf like a flag planted. I opened the albums at my kitchen counter. There I was with Dad on a park bench, my hand in his, the sun making a stray hair glow. The notebook held drafts of the first campaign idea I'd ever loved, and a folded Polaroid I'd forgotten Dad at the hardware store, me on his shoulders. Both of us grinning like we didn't know the clock was running. My phone buzzed again. An email from Lorna. We've drafted an addendum. Seller acknowledges daughter's equitable interest. Buyer agrees to close upon receipt of all signatures. Leah's share to be held in escrow pending agreement. Proposed close date extended 3 weeks. Please review. I forwarded it to Cami and Ria's assistant, so my calendar reflected the new timeline. Then I brewed tea and wrote my own summary of the day. Not for evidence. For memory. 2 coffees, 3 buckets, 1 clear apology. A plan that didn't crush me. I slept and didn't dream of bags. Morning brought a different kind of message. A new email hit my work inbox from an address with no name, only numbers. The subject line read, "Concern about Leah's judgment." Inside was a single paragraph suggesting I was unstable, with a blurry photo of the retrieval tripod in the yard, and a line about police threats. It had been sent to Ria HR and the CEO. My scalp prickled. The timing was too neat. The tone was too familiar. I took a breath and sent Ria the full context, the clause, the paused sale, the mediator plan, the clean video, the absence of police, the careful boundaries. She replied in 6 minutes. Got it. I trust you. HR will log and ignore. Focus on Seattle. I stared at the screen, half grateful, half furious. Someone had crossed a line. Sienna's silence suddenly had a shape. I closed my laptop and stood by the window until my heartbeat slowed, the table with the line in the middle. The mediator's office was all glass and calm light. A ficus leaned toward a window. A bowl of mints sat like a peace offering. Patrice Lang introduced herself in a voice that made everyone drop their shoulders a notch. "Ground rules," she said. "We speak one at a time. We stick to facts. If we need private caucus, we'll use it. Today's goal is a workable plan, not a perfect past." Mom nodded. Adrian folded his arms. Sienna set her tote on the floor like a shield. Theo took the chair beside me. Cammy joined by video from a small conference room that hummed through the speaker. Lorna called in too short and brisk with the addendum on her screen. Patrice looked at me. "Leah, you asked for this meeting. Start us off." I kept it simple. Consent to sell when I'm 25 requires my signature. I'll give it when 3 conditions are set. 1, my share goes into escrow at close while distributions are reviewed. 2, I get full copies of sale documents and the rider that promised early deposit on vacancy. 3, a written accounting of my rent payments and household costs for the last 3 years. After that, we can settle the number with a neutral. I'm not here to stall. I'm here to be fair. Sienna clicked her pen once. "This is theater," she said. "Buyers don't wait for family drama." Lorna cleared her throat. "For the record, buyers are still in. We extended 3 weeks. The lender, however, has an appraisal window that closes Friday. If we miss access again, we may need a new appraisal. That could change the rate or the price." The room shifted. Pressure found its old groove. Adrian leaned forward. "There it is! Consequences! Sing Freething today!" Patrice lifted a hand. "We don't rush signatures. We remove obstacles." She turned to Lorna. "Is there a way to allow appraisal access without Leah's consent being resolved?" Lorna answered fast. "Yes. If Leah signs a limited access letter allowing appraiser entry and routine inspections, we keep the loan path alive while you settle funds. It's standard." Mom exhaled like she'd been underwater. Sienna looked irritated that the sky had not fallen on command. Patrice nodded. "Good. That's one small bridge. Now documents." I slid the red folder scan across the table and placed the clause next to it. Cammy's voice filled the speaker. "Leah's request for copies is reasonable. The rider that released deposit upon vacancy created incentive to force move-out. You can disagree with the tactic and still fix the process. Escrowing her share cures risk for everyone." Adrian frowned. "We don't even know what her share is." "That's why escrow exists," Cammy said. "It holds funds while you agree on the number instead of pretending the number is 0. Patrice looked at Mom. "Miriam," Mom's fingers worried the edge of her napkin. "I can agree to escrow," she said. "And to copies. And to the access letter today." I didn't understand how that rider would push things. Sienna's head snapped toward her. "You understood enough to sign it. I signed because you said it would help," Mom said softly. "It did," Sienna shot back. "Until Leah made it a spectacle." Patrice stepped in. "Sienna, direct your comments to proposals, not people." Sienna's mouth set. "Proposal. Leah waives any claim in exchange for a small courtesy payment. 5,000. We close on time, everyone moves on." I didn't look at her. I looked at Patrice. "Counter escrow, 1/4 of net proceeds at close less agreed expenses we can verify." I sign the access letter now and full consent when the escrow is in writing. No waivers of rights, no retroactive penalties for paying rent I was asked to pay. Adrian started to speak. Patrice held up a finger. "Before we spin numbers, one more item. Leah, you referenced a hostile email sent to your employer." The air thinned. Sienna's shoulders squared. Patrice's voice stayed even. "This process works best without off-table attacks. Can everyone agree to a non-disparagement during the sale? No messages to employers, clients, or social contacts meant to pressure or punish." Adrian nodded. "Fine." Mom swallowed. "Yes." Theo said yes, clear and quick. Sienna stared at the table. "I didn't write anything she said. Patrice didn't push. Can you agree to the clause along beat?" "Fine," Sienna said, like the word cost her money. Patrice tapped her pen once. "We'll add a mutual non-disparagement." Lorna, can your team draft the limited access letter and the escrow addendum by end of day? Yes, Lorna said. If Miriam approves, I'll send them within the hour. We took a break for caucus. In a small room with a view of a parking lot, Mom's composure slid. Your sister fronted the staging costs, she whispered. She said the early deposit would pay her back. If we don't close soon, I owe her personally. The knot of urgency finally showed its string. I kept my voice kind and clear. That's not my debt. I'll help you structure this, but I won't absorb private agreements I didn't make. She nodded, ashamed and relieved at once. I know. Back in the main room, Patrice steered us forward. We have the bones. Let's set steps. We wrote them down in clean lines today, limited access letter. Tomorrow copies to a shared folder. By Friday, escrow addendum signed. Next week appraisal. The week after close. Theo raised a hand like he was in class. I have something, he said. He slid a printout across the table, his fingers shaking only a little. The listing printer saved PDFs to a synced folder. This is a screenshot of Sienna's email to the agent last week. The subject line read, Leah. The body. If she resists, we'll create pressure. She cares about her job. Anonymous complaint should make her cooperate. You could feel the temperature drop. Sienna's face flushed, then went white, then flushed again. Adrian looked at her like he didn't recognize the person in front of him. Patrice kept her tone neutral. That's not for me to adjudicate, but it explains trust issues. It also underlines the need for non-disparagement and a clean written path. Sienna gathered her tote, as if she might stand and leave. I spoke before she could bolt. I'm not going to chase revenge, I said. I'm also not going to pretend this is normal. The clause goes in. The escrow holds my share. We stop with the side blows. You don't have to like me. You do have to stop trying to break my work life to win a house game. Sienna sat back down slowly, eyes hot. You always make yourself the victim, she said. No, I answered. I made myself a boundary. Patrice wrote the last lines of the plan and slid signature pages forward. Mom signed. Adrian signed. After a long pause, his jaw tight. Sienna stared at the pen, then scrawled in the tiny box like the ink itself offended her. I signed last. My name came out steady. Lorna emailed the access letter. I signed that too. Appraiser access for Thursday noon to 2. On the way out, Adrian spoke in a low voice. If the appraisal comes in low because of delays, then we adjust like adults, I said. Not by erasing me. He didn't agree, but he didn't argue. Small progress. In the car, Theo leaned his head on the seat and laughed once a tired shape of sound. I feel like I aged 5 years, he said. You were solid, I told him. You told the truth. That matters. Back at work, I sent Rhea a one-line update access letter, signed close, extended, no impact on Seattle. She replied with a thumbs up and a proud. I built the pilot calendar in a neat grid, then blocked time for appraisal and closing so nothing bled. At 4, Lorna called. 2 items, she said. 1, buyers are asking for a small credit for a roof patch the inspector flagged. 2, the appraiser wants copies of utility bills and proof of last roof service. Can you request those? I emailed Mom with the list. She replied within 10 minutes with scans. That speed would have been unthinkable a week ago. People rise to structure. At 6, Arya set a pot of chili on the stove and asked 0 leading questions. I told her only the parts that mattered, the plan, the letter, the printout. She shook her head at the email, then hugged me from the side while stirring. You're doing this with your head on, she said. That's the only way it sticks. Thursday's appraisal was oddly quiet. I stood on the sidewalk with the access letter nodded to the appraiser and walked the yard while he measured. A neighbor waved with a mix of curiosity and sympathy. I didn't go inside. I didn't need to see the empty squares where my life used to sit. I signed his form and left. Friday, Lorna sent numbers. With the buyer's small credit and closing costs, estimated escrow for my quarter would be 6 figures. It felt surreal to see it typed like a fact, not a lottery, not a gift, my share of a house I grew up in and paid to live in. Adrian called that night. He didn't waste time. I'm sorry about the email, he said. I didn't know. I should have asked more questions. My throat tightened. Thank you. He cleared his throat. For what it's worth, your plan kept the deal from blowing up. It kept me from blowing up, I said. We both let out a breath that wasn't quite a laugh. 2 days before close, a curveball came. The buyer's lender flagged the clause as unusual and requested either a separate consent agreement signed by me alone or a delay to review. Lorna forwarded the note with a calm, "We can solve." I drafted a 1-page consent. I consent to the sale on X date. I do not waive my equitable interest. My share will be held in escrow. I waive no claims unrelated to this property. Cammy tweaked a verb and a comma. I signed and sent it. The lender stamped, "Okay before lunch." The morning of closing, Mom texted I made soup. "After if you want to stop by." It was such a small, normal sentence, it pierced me more than the hard ones. I told her I'd try. At the title office, the table was long, and the pens were smooth and heavy. Checks and signatures moved like chess pieces. I watched the escrow lines the way a lifeguard watches water. When it was my turn, I signed her the consent and the non-disparagement. Mom's eyes were wet but clear. Sienna kept her gaze on the stacked jaw set, signature fast and angular. Theo squeezed my hand under the table. The server at the end slid a copy of the escrow receipt toward me. It had my name and a number that meant air and time, and a door with its own lock. Outside, the sky was a white sheet. Wind tugged at my sleeves. Adrian put his hands in his coat pockets. "Lunch," he asked, "half offer, half truce." "Rain check," I said. "Work." He nodded. Sienna walked past without a word. Mom touched my shoulder and whispered, "Thank you for not wrecking it." I answered, "Thank you for meeting me in the middle." That night, Arya and Miles lit a candle on our tiny table and toasted with seltzer. "To escrow," Miles said. "To boundaries," Arya added. "To finishing what others start," I said. My phone buzzed with Lorna's final email. "Recording complete. Funds distributed as agreed. Escrow established. Thank you for your cooperation." I stared at the words and felt the ache loosen its grip. It wasn't triumph, it was steadiness. The next phase would not be about the house. It would be about what I built with the space in my head that the fight had occupied. Keys quiet and the long view. 2 weeks after closing, the escrow math landed. Patrice looped in a neutral accountant, everyone uploaded receipts, and we argued with spreadsheets instead of insults. The numbers were dull and honest. My rent payments were logged, the utilities I covered showed up, and the writer drama got its own line. In the end, my quarter stayed close to the first estimate. Not a windfall, a fair share. The transfer email blinked blue at noon on a Wednesday while I was on a client call. I muted, breathed once, and unmuted with a steady voice. After work, I took Arya to a taco place with loud music and ordered guacamole, like it was a holiday. We clinked soda glasses. "You did this clean," she said. Clean felt better than victorious. I used part of the funds as a down payment on a small, 1-bedroom near the lake, 3rd floor south light, creaky floors that sang when the radiator woke. The first time I turned the key, I didn't cry. I exhaled. I walked the rooms with my palm against the wall, the way you do when you meet a dog you want to trust you. Arya and Miles helped me haul the locking totes and the boxes we'd labeled in that chaotic first weekend. We built a crooked bookshelf, then fixed it. I bought a simple table, 2 chairs, and a plant that didn't ask for much. The lavender candle took the middle of a small shelf and became less of a joke. It smelled like a room I could keep. Work found a new rhythm. The West Coast pilot hit its targets. Rhea made the role permanent and bumped my title. I hired 2 smart associates and gave them clear lanes. We built dashboards that answered questions before clients could ask them. The praise that came back felt like data, not oxygen. I started therapy back up after a short pause and told my counselor how the fight had ended. She smiled at the word ended, then asked about the quieter load. The truth was simple. Hard things stayed hard, just quieter. I slept through the night more often. I stopped checking my phone in the dark for sudden fires. When worry came, it spoke softer, and I could tell it no without shouting. Mom moved into a modest apartment 2 bus lines from mine. We kept our coffee rhythm every other Sunday. We avoided the old trap of making it a tribunal. We talked about recipes and neighbors and the frustration of slow elevators. Sometimes we touched the edges of the past, named a pattern, and set it down before it burned us. She stayed with the mediator for 3 sessions after the sale to learn how to ask before deciding. It showed. When she wanted to borrow a ladder, she texted first. It felt small and huge at once. Adrian eased into an actual brother instead of a project manager. We met for soup at a place near the hospital. No lectures, no scorekeeping. Just 2 adults with tired eyes and decent bread. He asked about the pilot like it mattered. I asked about his ridiculous hours. He admitted he missed Dad more at 40 than he had at 20. Grief does that. It boomerangs. We didn't fix it. We said it out loud. Theo started taking small risks that looked big for him. He told Mom no to a holiday plan that didn't fit his budget and lived through the discomfort. He sent me a photo of a model he'd built from scrap wood and old hinges. A tiny plane balanced on a wire stand, steady in a storm of his own making. I put the picture on my fridge. Sienna stayed sharp and cold for a while. Then one night, a text arrived, late 4 sentences and no emojis. I crossed a line with your job. I thought pressure would work. It was wrong. I won't do it again. It wasn't an apology that hugged. It was a door cracked open. I wrote back, thank you. Boundaries stand. I wish you health. We didn't start lunch dates. We didn't trade secrets. But the air around her name stopped tasting like metal. I built new habits that weren't survival. I set autopay for bills. I cooked on Sundays and froze portions for Thursdays when energy runs out. I walked before emails. I kept the watch and letter in a drawer I open on purpose, not to torture myself, but to remember who gave me the permission to ask for more than a quiet seat in the back. On a small yellow legal pad, I drafted an idea that had been simmering since the night my things sat in bags. I called it the First Step Fund. Tiny grants for deposits, document fees, and bus passes for people shoved out with short notice. No essays, no trauma theater, just a short form and a receipt. I set it up as a micro-donation page, seeded it with a slice of my escrow and a bonus from the pilot, and asked 5 friends to share. Arya wrote the clearest blurb I've ever seen. Miles built the page after dinner, with his laptop balanced on a chair. The first month we covered 3 deposits and a pair of work boots. One recipient sent a card that said, I didn't need a pep talk. I needed $150. Thank you. I read that line twice and sat very still because sometimes the solution is as plain as rent money, and we dress it in speeches to avoid paying it. The condo changed with me. I hung 2 prints from a street market and one of Dad and me at the hardware store, not as a shrine, but as a nod to what carried. I bought a bright rug because I could. The room absorbed it without asking permission. Sometimes on Friday nights, Arya and Miles came over with board games. Sometimes I sat alone and read without checking the door. When the wind came off the lake, it rattled the windows a little. It sounded like a far train and made me feel part of a city that breathes whether I do or not. One afternoon, the doorbell rang. A package sat on the mat with no return address. Inside was the slim silver notebook Sienna had kept too long, and a note with 3 words. As promised. S. I put the notebook on the shelf, not because I needed it, but because honoring a small repair matters more than scoring the last point. Months rolled. The drama shrank to the space it deserved, a chapter, not a life. I stopped telling the story to strangers and started using it as a filter. Who respects a no, who hears a boundary, and doesn't try to bargain with it? Those people stayed. The rest stayed away. On the anniversary of the day the bags lined our gate, I walked by the old house. The siding had a new color. The tree in front had a rope swing now. A little kid dragged her stuffed lion across the yard while a dad adjusted the seat height on a tiny bike. I didn't feel rage. I felt the commonness of change. Houses hold us, and then they hold other people. We carry what fits and leave what doesn't. I texted Mom a photo of the swing. She sent a heart. That night, I lit the lavender candle and opened my laptop to write this. If you're watching because a family line cut you open, hear me. You are not a problem to be solved by becoming smaller. You can be kind and firm. You can set a hard edge without becoming hard. You can document, plan, and still love. You can build a life that answers to you. Tell me where you're watching from. If this gave you a map, hit like and subscribe so it reaches someone who needs a clean plan and a calm voice more than a stirring speech. And if you're standing at a gate lined with black bags, take the bag with your name on it and start walking. The first step is not pretty. It is yours.